OBS today. It's crashed on me twice. It's not my PC or anything. It's just literally OBS crashing and taking everything down with it. Not sure why, but it keeps on doing this. Getting really annoyed with OBS. I think I'm gonna, after the stream, I'm gonna do the I'm gonna skip doing recon today. I'm gonna do my I'm gonna do the AMA, and I'm going to go install Ubuntu because I am sick and tired of this crap. So if you're watching this on YouTube, this camera, if you're watching this on YouTube, sorry for being angry, but OBS has crashed twice on me today and I'm not happy about it. So I'm very unhappy about it actually, but what can I do about it? All right, let's give it a few minutes. I want to make sure this doesn't crash again. Thank you for the new subscribers. It's not your fault that you, I saw the chat. It's like, is it my fault? Absolutely your fault, but also OBS's fault for kicking me out. I gotta figure out what the heck is wrong with this thing though. It's not cool. I just need something more stable than Windows, because Windows, I don't know what it is. It's just OBS on Windows is the crappiest thing to use. I thought first it was OBS Streamlabs that was causing the issues, but turns out that wasn't it. So so for the AMA, I'm gonna start in a little bit. I'm gonna go get coffee really quick, and I'm gonna start the AMA. For the AMA itself, if you have questions, I know, X. I can't figure out what it is though. I have to figure it out at one point. All right, for the AMA itself, what I will do is please keep all the questions for later, and we'll get to them at the end. If you think a question is really good and we should keep it for a regular format for my Sunday. So the reason why I did the AMA was I wanted to understand what you guys wanted to learn about, so I can also put them as a part of my regular AMAs when I have guests over. A lot of the questions, unfortunately, I'm very disappointed that was like, there weren't specific questions. It was just like the usual spam. How do I RC? How do I do this? Please ask some like different questions, guys. Like I wanna, you don't focus on one thing. Like think big picture. Think more specific questions where I can actually answer with a question, and not, asking me like one of the top questions was, give me your step-by-step how you find RC. That's not how it works. So make it more specific. If you have questions, wait till the end. I don't want it to be just me talking, so I want it to be an engaging conversation. So if you have follow-up questions about the questions we're talking about, feel free to throw it in the chat as well, okay? For AMA or AMA just bug bounty or infosec. The AMA is anything. So the categories I had were personal life at HackerOne, recon, bug bounty, infosec, I think. Why is my t-shirt red? Because it's my favorite color. So those were the major topics I had. Maybe if you switch to your phone, the PC will start. Sure. All right. Give me a sec. I'm gonna go fill this bad boy up. I have a little bit left. I am gonna run an ad on you guys that don't subscribe, and I'll be right back. And then we'll do the AMA. Alright, I'm back, but I made a rookie mistake. I really hope I don't spill this live on stream because I forgot to get the cap for it, and I really don't want to spill this. What's up, Extreme Buster? How's it going? Alright, let's do this. It is AMA time. Thank you for the sub, Tennis. I appreciate it. You guys ready? Thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. I swear to God, OBS, if you go bad on me again. Okay, let me get my AMA form. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you, Bug. I appreciate it. Let me find the AMA real quick. I thought I had my AMA up. What happened? All right, there are. Holy shit. So I cleaned this up a little bit last night when I had a little bit of time. There were some really, really disgusting questions in there I'm not gonna bring up, but if you put some really messed up questions on here, there's a special place in hell for bringing those up in these. Some people were just asking like weird, like not personal questions, but just like you knew they were just trying to troll and be negative. It's just people on the internet. I get it, but oh boy. All right. Questions. If you have a question about a specific question that I'm doing, throw it in the chat. If it's a brand new question, keep it to the end of the chat. Okay. Anything you want to ask. This is just whatever you guys want to ask. Go for it. I'm gonna ignore the chat for a little bit. Actually, here's chat's right here. So I'm not gonna ignore chat. Here we go. And we'll start with it. Do you guys want to see the questions? Because I can do that too. Let's do the other way around. There we go. So again, if you have questions, don't ask them now. Actually, you know what? Go to the AMA. Ask it here. Go on Twitter. On Twitter, there should be a link. Here, let me just put the link. Mods, can you get the link to the questionnaire and put it on here? If anyone's around. We'll start here, and then if I think a question is good, I'm just gonna put an X next to it, and we'll see where it goes. Let me just go to my Twitter real quick. So if you want to ask a question, there's a form right here. I'm gonna put it in the chat. Throw your questions in there. I'll get to them. This way we don't forget. Thank you, Maricina. I appreciate it. So if you want to ask a question, throw it in there. I'll get to it at the end of the stream, hopefully. And there's a lot of them today. All right, so let's start. What certificates do you recommend? I don't think certificates are. I don't think certificates are really important to get. It just depends on your goal as a person. If you're someone new to InfoSec and you want to just break in and get a new job in InfoSec, then getting a certificate is really worth it. But the ones that I would want to go get, one of them would be anything with offensive security. It's really, really good. I'm afraid of actually going after offensive security because of how time consuming it is, and I don't know if I could actually pass it. And that's just me being real about it. I don't think I have enough time to study it, so kind of been procrastinating. But if I were to go down that route, the offensive security professional, certified professional, and their web one I've heard is really, really good, especially if you want to learn code review and that kind of stuff. Those two would be the ones that I would go after. Ethical Network or Ethical Hacker Network has some really cool certificates. Those were the ones that I've actually looked at, but I've never gone after yet. I've gone access to them, but they look legit. They have a lot of cool stuff on them. There's a lot of broad data on there. Lots of the basics for you to understand. So those are the three that I think I would really want to do. But it all depends. Like, it depends on what you want to do. It's really hard to come up with a certificate idea when everyone's goals is different. My whole goal was to become successful at bug bounty hunting, so I didn't need any certificates, right? But that doesn't mean that there aren't trainings for it. Agari FR is a French hacker, obviously out of France, does some really good Burp Suite trainings. Doesn't have a certificate for it, but it's good to go and take that class. I would take that class if I could. So I don't think certificates are important as much, but you can definitely get some really good training. But I will say this though, SEH, not worth it. I don't think it's worth it at all. It's never been worth it. I don't think I'll ever go after it. You can learn all that stuff on your own. I don't know why you would need CEH, not SEH, CEH. I don't know if I said that wrong earlier, but yeah. What gear you use on desktop and laptop, program, OS, books, videos, pages, and where to start cybersecurity and ethical hacking from zero? That's a loaded question. I use a gaming PC of some sort. It's kind of beefed up, but again, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what PC you use. I'm always SSHing into another box. So it doesn't matter what my PC is, honestly. No matter what you use, if you have an SSH, it's going to be powerful enough, and you can spin up as many as you want. And if you want to spin up your own SSH, I have $100 credit now. If you scroll down on Twitch, if you go down below, there's $100 free DigitalOcean credit at the end of my bio down below. So go take care of it. I honestly think it's the best way to do it. Also, the other thing is, like, if I'm traveling, I have an app on my phone actually that I can SSH into. Here, let me show you what the intro looks like. This is what the app looks like. And you can SSH into your box and check out whatever you want. It's not 50; it should be 100. It went up to 100 for DigitalOcean now, chat. But yeah, I prefer to do that. So if you want to do the same, you're more than welcome to do it. But honestly, at the end of the day, I prefer to hack on a Mac OS. It's just easier. The terminal looks nicer. It's just very more. I think it's easier to control things on a Mac than it is on a PC. But at the end of the day, main OS, I would always keep Mac OS, and if I'm hacking, Ubuntu has always been my go-to. It's just been a lot easier to use Ubuntu and SSH into it again. Picking targets, how you keep hunting on a target that a hacker has found and reported lots of things. This comes up a lot. Honestly, I try to not let the number of bugs found by other hackers get on the way of how I do stuff. Honestly, like, depends. If I go on there and I see 5 of the top hackers are on the top of the leaderboard, then kind of iffy, but I still go look at it because it depends on the scope. If it's a huge scope, then it doesn't matter. There's plenty out there to find. But on a small program, different story. But if I go on there and there are some hackers that I don't know, and they have reported 40 bugs, I don't care, because at the end of the day, what I've learned from working in the industry is that a lot of hackers rely on scanners. I used to be one of those people myself. And then a lot of hackers report a lot of best practices, which they get paid sometimes. They're easy finds, but it doesn't scale. You don't make more money from it. So I try not to let the leaderboard bother me. Also, like, code's being developed every week. So people are always pushing out new code on a weekly basis or a bi-weekly basis, whatever their format is at their company. So there's new stuff coming out, especially in companies that are huge. So again, there's new stuff coming out. You just have to be able to identify those in order to be able to find vulnerabilities. But that's just me. I think, again, people have different perspectives on hacking, and that's kind of why I try not to worry about what other people do. Is your BBHT project up to date with your current setup? Yes, I just updated that not too long ago. So you should check it out. If you want to set up the same tools as I do, BBHT is the way to do it. Most of the time after I find a supplement using the tools you provide, I don't know what to do next, how to proceed with recon after finding subdomains or IPs. All right, let's do it. 5 steps. Find subdomains. Find interesting files and interesting folders. If the site is actually serving content, depending on what the content is, look at the source, look at the JavaScript files, and also get to know the application and not just focus on recon. And what I mean by the 5th one that I just said is stop just focusing on directory brute forcing, because directory brute forcing is just to see if there are any dev files, interesting files that shouldn't be there that could leak information. But at the end of the day, if the site that you have found, the subdomain that you have found serves an application, your focus should be how to break that application. Whether you're doing directory brute forcing, looking at JavaScript files, the main focus is how do I break this app? Is there a login? How do I bypass a login? Is there a login? Can I access these API routes that are in this JavaScript file without being logged in? Because if you can't access those API endpoints, then there are some authorization issues. Sometimes you may be able to get other bugs outside the authorization issue. You could register sometimes, you can edit users, and so on. So those are the 5 things I would recommend doing when it comes down to what's next after recon. Let's do this. This is a good question. Let's do it. Hi Ben, thanks for giving us this chance to ask you. Actually, my question is, when you know that you finished your recon process on a target, getting satisfied with your process, when do I know that? Honestly, there is no like set rate. It's just I run the same tools that I show on my streams, and once I have enough domains to look at, I don't worry about recon anymore. It's just I want to make sure I have enough subdomains to hack on that I don't get bored of this target. So I don't just do recon continuously all the time. It's just I want to get some subdomains that I might find interesting, that I'm just going to stick to this until I find some bugs. Second question is, what is your approach after recon? I already talked about that. So go back a few minutes, you will get your answer in the last question. What would you do if you find PHP info? How would you escalate to high or critical? The only way that I have really seen it get escalated if there is plain text credentials in the PHP info. Other than that, honestly, use that information as you're gonna have the routes, for example, where everything is. If those are just information gathering on the target. Other than that, there isn't other stuff really in there, unless it's some old PHP version, but that's a different story. What are the servers you use for testing SSRF? I use my server that I have. I just open up a port on my box. I always open 443 using Netcat. So I do just NC whatever 443. That's because even if there's firewalled off or their traffic can go out, 443 is usually doable. And the other reason why I do it is it gives me a lot of information. It sends me all the headers. Sometimes there are API keys in those headers. Sometimes the API, when it makes a connection to your box, it gives you the user agent. User agent is one of the most important things when it comes down to SSRF. So always keep that in mind. I use the IR search on my target domain. I found script root exe. I Googled about it, shows Microsoft IIS vulnerabilities. But I don't know briefly about that. Can you explain about the script? I don't know what the script is, but I would literally do the same thing as you. Just copy and paste, and it looks like it's some backdoor maybe. Read up, see what it is. Sometimes this is a different case because it could be some backdooring or something like that. But if it was some random file, I always just look it up. If there's a known exploit on ExploitDB or other resources, then I try to figure out how the exploit works and see if I can replicate it on this particular box. Teach us proper GitHub recon. These are the things that I say I don't want to see during AMAs. Your top 5 recon tools. Ooh, that's a good one. Well, you guys know how much I love IR search. I support that 100%. FUFF has been getting a lot of attention. SQL map, it's not really recon, so I'll take it back. Search and destroy. I don't want to toot my own horn, but it's been very, very helpful having search and destroy. Cert.sh, you guys know how much I love Cert.sh. Has a lot of good data on there. And recently I've been playing with AMAS a lot. I've been loving AMAS. AMAS and HTTP Probe, I think they're equal. HTTP Probe because it just made my life easier thanks to Tom. But outside of that, AMAS would be a second close one. Shout out to Jeff for making that great tool. At a glance, how do you differentiate assets into a meaningful group versus an unmeaningful one? For example, JS files are great for looking for API keys, hidden URLs, but most JavaScript files are useless. Do you spend hours looking through each of them and determining manually whether they are worth the time, or do you have more of an automated process? This extends beyond JS. Really good question. This is how you should ask a question. Okay, so meaningful versus unmeaningful. I don't bucket them. Every asset is meaningful. The only ones that are unmeaningful are CDNs and CDNs. That's about it. Everything else I think is meaningful because it's another target you can add on, hack on. Obviously things like VPN logins, things that you know are not vulnerable, even with VPNs, thanks to Orange Sci, some of them are very vulnerable. But honestly, you have to gain the experience to understand that on your own. What I find meaningful to me could be different than what you find meaningful to you. But as far as JavaScript files go, I always look at the file name. I look at the vendor files. I look at the ones that have apps in them, the keyword app in it. Again, it's all with experience. But as far as looking for JavaScript files, I don't automate it as much. So if I find a JavaScript file that has juicy information, then I feed it to JS parser to make it easier. But usually when I'm ad hoc hacking, I'm opening up JS files and looking for things like get, post. What do you mean F? I'm still here. I can see myself on my screen. Am I here, chat? Can someone confirm that I'm not taken down? Okay, I'm here. So yeah, I look for things like get, post. I look for keywords. I look for some things that I have found on other applications. So when you start gaining that experience is where you get better at recognizing what's meaningful and what's not meaningful. Automation is good, but you have to automate the right things. So the way I tell people to automate is think of the things that you have done maybe 5 or 10 times a day that you know you're going to do that on any target. Automate it. You don't want to automate. You don't want to automate you. You want to automate the tasks that are, happening a lot. Happening more than 3-4 times a day, whether it's an alias, whether it's writing a script that does it for you, whether it's, let's say if you look for one of the things that you guys watch me do during my streams is I post or I look for application.waddle, right? Automate it. Have a tool that gets all your recon data and pushes it out to this this new code that you wrote that looks for application.waddle. Do that, automate it for yourself. It helps you get better and you want to become more efficient. The point of automation isn't to replace you, it's to make you faster and more efficient. So keep that in mind when you are automating stuff. Next question or no? Hold on. Also, from now on, if you do claim one of the Pentester labs, tell me, just so I know who took it. I would appreciate it if you do. Do you usually use do nmap for all ports and services? No, I don't nmap all ports. Sometimes, if I'm going after a particular target, yes. But if I'm mass scanning, no. I usually when I'm mass scanning for open ports, I do, I want to say maybe 40 ports, maybe 30 ports. Easy ports like 8443, 8080, 8081, 7443, 9443, 10,000, 3,000, 15, whatever RabbitMQ's port is. Ports that I know are important in my recon. If you're interested, there is a list of ports in Lazy Recon. By the way, that project has been officially archived. But if you want to do the same ports as I do, just go to Lazy Recon, look for nmap, and just grab the list of ports. All right. We're only only on question 15. Holy crap. Do you usually do, and okay, I did this one. I am a beginner and I download tools for bug bounties, but I can't run it. Do you know why? Don't know why. I search for video tutorials, but I can't find every tool. That's not a question, but thank you. How to build your own word list. Go to SecList. SecList is the easiest way to do it. Maybe I'll dedicate a stream or a video for this later, but SecList has everything you need. I have thousands of domains and I don't know what to do after I checked. Most of the time I look for way back URL for finding JS files, but nothing is helping me. I don't know what this question is, but I just talked about this earlier. You should check it out. I found an open Swagger UI on a private program. No API key needed. It's an online store backend. Would you report it as a vuln or dig deeper? I don't think Swagger UI itself is a vuln, but it's a very, very, very good asset because it tells you what the APIs are, what the routes are, how does it work, what does it expect, how it's going to react. And if it doesn't require an API key, then you should be able to pull some really cool data from it. But just be very careful. You don't want to query a bunch of data and piss the program off. So what I usually do is I just hit one endpoint that allows me to pull data from, especially if it's a backend, and I tell them, hey, this is a authorization bypass on your backend because I can do the same things as an admin does when they log in, except I don't have to log into this application. Could you stream of introducing your favorite tools on Kali? That's not a question. What's the main thing you look for during your recons? I look for the first thing I do is I look for important third-party apps. By that I mean Jenkins, Jira, anything Atlassian, Sonar, dev sites, stag traces, and that sort of things. The favorite bugs that I do like to look for is SSRF has been one of my favorites, and I obviously look for XSS. RCE is very broad, so I don't want to say RCE, but anything that could achieve an RCE I look for as well. Everyone talks about staying on top of OWASP, but how do you do this? Are there blogs, feeds, sites that keep you updated? Nope. I just go and do it. If I see a new vuln type coming out, I go do some labs, and then I make it my a mission of my own to go and find these bugs. I recommend doing the same. When you list all possible subdomains, what do you do after content discovery? I mean, I saw you list of 700 domains and doing recon. After that, you try every subdomain. No, it's just the list of the recon isn't just, it's just to get a list. Again, you want to get the list of subdomains. The more you have, the more of a playground you have to play on. And the rest of that is up to you and what you're looking for. I recommend going back into the stream and looking at the previous questions. I kind of answered this. What is the first thing you do when you hunt on a website? That is a really good question, actually. The first thing I do is I try to look around the website. If it's let's say it's a project management site, I sign up, I log in, I look at all the different applications that are available. What can this application do? What are those micro sites or micro apps that are within this application? Are there paid features? If there is a paid feature, can I buy a license for a month or two? Is it cheap enough? Can I request it from the program? But I truly want to understand what this app is supposed to do. What are the different permissions? What are the things that they can do and can't do? And then I start looking for bugs. Can you share step-by-step recon? No, watch my stream. Places to look for blind SSRF. I think the better question is places to look for SSRF. And honestly, anywhere that takes a user inputs URL to fetch data remotely from another site is a really good place. So places you can upload images, documents, code, whatever that is what I would go and look for it. Not doing that one. How do you hack sites that return forbidden message only? Oh, that's easy. I just directory brute force and see if anything's on there. The name of that subdomain itself is very, very important because this is how you understand what the subdomain is supposed to accomplish. So if I see something that's like API, something that has a keyword for API, then obviously there's some API laying around on that subdomain. You just have to find it. So pay attention to what the subdomain itself is called and use that as a piece of the puzzle to figure out what to do next. How to identify interesting. I talked about this already. Is finding subdomains important? Yes. And no. Depends on the program, because if it's a wildcard program, yes, it is very important. If it's a single app, then no, it's not that important, honestly. Again, it's important to find subdomains because the more you have, the more you can hack on. What scans can you do when programs say no automation? I think the no automation thing is only for things that are sending thousands of requests per second. I usually try to do things manually, but when the company says no automation, depends on what you're looking for. I think they mean to again, like, don't send a ton of traffic to this website. You can still scan, I think, but just, comes down to how many requests you're sending per second. How to perform a quick search to find an immediate error on the first approach to a targeted site. What are your most detailed recon step by step? Why is everyone wanting to do the step by step handouts? Stop asking for handouts. Stop worrying about what other people do step by step. Learn from others and implement your step by step thing. I hate the step by step questions. I hate the videos that are step by step how to do this. You're not doing anybody any favors by doing step by step. If you really want to understand how I do step by step recon, then put in the time and effort to watch my videos to learn. I want to know the right approach for any program. I try to do recon for every program with a large scope, but what about a program with a small scope, as no subdomains are in scope? What kind of vulns should I be looking for? You should. So I did a video called The Truth About Recon. You should check that out. I talk about how to approach big targets versus small targets. At the end of the day, depends on the site itself. Airbnb was a single domain, right? I dominated Airbnb.com, even though it's a one single domain site, but the app was huge. I broke it down into different pieces, and then I went after every single one of those pieces. And those pieces were, being a user, being a company, being a host, and all that stuff. So your approach would be completely different, but the bugs you look for aren't going to change. The approach is what changes. Best way for a noob to begin recon on a target. Do you have a list compiled of the tools you use for recon? Yes. Go on GitHub /NahamSec BBHT. I should have them all. Just a question about your own report and how people at H1 evaluated it. Oh, and when I submit a report, is the company that read it first or H1 team? Thank you for the sub. I appreciate it. So I don't get it. I know there is this misconception that because I have people that work at H1, they get different treatment. Unfortunately, that's not true. And unfortunately, if anything, we get a bit of less of a better treatment because we work at the company. So I can't argue with a lot of customers because I work at HackerOne. There's a lot of that goes in the background. But at the end of the day, if your reports are clear, the impact is clear, and you have a working POC, then it shouldn't be a problem. A lot of the reports that I see people complaining is that are not getting past the triages. They're theoretical. You don't have a POC. You're just saying, in theory, this works. Theories work in pen tests. They don't work in bug bounties. If you want to work theory, go back to pen testing. They're not going to pay you on bug bounties to do that theory stuff. And the other thing is missing best practices. No one gives a shit sometimes. Like most companies don't give a shit. Don't waste your time on doing best practices. Go find bugs with impact. Bug bounties are about impact more than anything else. So unless you step up, you're not gonna be able to go that far. Let's see. This is where it gets interesting. So let's let me do this real quickly. Gotta catch my breath real quick. Whoa. There's more questions coming in. Holy crap. All right, let's see. What do you do when you're afraid that you're not gonna find bugs? I deal with this a lot more than you guys think. I say fuck it. I play a lot of video games. Mason could actually, if he's around, he could vouch for that. It's a balance. It's like, I don't know, it's like playing sports, right? Like you want to have the right mentality. You don't see basketball players, football players going in there saying, I'm going to lose. If you go in that mentality, you're going to lose, right? So it's a balance. If you don't find any bugs, spend time. Like, don't bullshit around. Spend 3-4 hours. Sit down and say, I want to find an XSS. And spend 3-4 hours on a target. And if you don't find it, take a break. Go on a walk. There's a lot of things you can do to help with that, but it just comes down to, like, what is your goal for that night? If you can't accomplish it, take a break. If you spend a week grinding and you're not finding any bugs, take a week off. You guys saw me disappear for 2 weeks. I was just tired of the whole hacking thing. I just went away. I stayed off of social media as much as I could. I spent time with friends, family, drinking, whatever that is. Take breaks. There's nothing wrong with taking a break. I like this question too, by the way, so let's give it an X. What do you do if you're afraid you're not going to find bugs? I already answered that, but I went back to it for some reason. What do you think is better, land a job in IT or AI, machine learning, and do bug bounties as a hobby? Depends. I can't decide that for you. I think for me, the biggest is landing a job in IT. If you know AI and machine learning, good for you. But I can't really answer that. For me, it's IT security is a better one. But I guess it comes down to what your goals are at the end of the day. Do you have kids? When do you think you want to make one? And what is her name? All right, let's talk about this. So most of you guys might know that I am Iranian. And this is a joke, by the way. I do want to have kids. Before I start, I do want to have kids. I don't have any right now. I think sometimes in the next 2 years. But to answer the question for the name, Iranians have this name called Sina. And my wife likes to name our son at one point. If we have a son, she wants to name him John, if it is a him. And I like the name Sina. So I want the first name to be John and last name to be Sina. John Cena, I think, would be a great name, but I don't think she gets the humor in that, so I don't think I'm gonna get that. And I really want to blast a John Cena song when I do have a kid. Imagine like having a kid named John Cena, and then you blast a John Cena song as they're, entering the world. But I don't think the doctors and my wife will have the humor in that. It's a well thought out plan, believe me. I've been thinking about it for months and years. What is your daily motivation? To do good. I've been saying this. I've been saying this for a while. I won't get too much into it, but I look at life very differently. I had a friend pass away a while ago that kind of changed my life and perspective on life. And the whole thing is, when you die, it all comes down to when you die, I think. When you die, what are you left behind? And when it comes down to relationships, is if you die, if this person passes tomorrow, will you care? Will that make you sad? So you know what I mean? I'm trying to base it on that, because life is very, very short. And I want to do good. So my daily motivation is to do good and to leave a very good legacy behind me. And if I do die tomorrow, I don't wake up tomorrow morning, the things that people remember me by is the things that are going to live on forever. So that's what has been my daily motivation. It used to be money, don't get me wrong, because I was doing bug bounties and I was like, oh, money, yes, I'm making tons of money, hell yeah. But money, I've learned that money isn't everything. Unfortunately, you're going to have to make money to pay your bills, and I get that. But at the end of the day, what you leave behind is the biggest important thing. Really went from Johnson to that. Sorry for taking a left turn. All right, let's go to the next question. When you first started learning, how many hours you put in? Oh, you don't want to know. I was waking up. I had a class at 8 a.m. That I used to skip. I would go drive to school to skip class to go to the library and learn how to hack. Please don't do this. It's not good. You would regret doing this. I know when you're younger, you're in your early 20s, you can do this kind of stuff because you have a lot of time and energy. But I spend maybe 16-hour days, 12-hour days, maybe more. I would literally go to class, when I found my RCE on Polyvore's Yahoo's Polyvore website, I was literally in a QA site. I would go class to class, open up my laptop, hack, and close my laptop, go to the next tab, open up my laptop again, and hack, and then go home and repeat. And then at one point I realized it's not healthy. You're making all this money, even little amount of money. You're making money, but you're not living life to spend that money. So just put in, come up with a pattern, come up with a routine. The biggest thing you can do is have that routine of, all right, I'm going to go to class, 8 to 1, whatever, 9 to 1, 9 to 3, whatever that number is. I'm going to go home, do my homework, or take a break and hack, but know what your routine is. My routine as of last 3 years was I work 9 to 5. At work, I'm allowed to hack if I have free time, which I take advantage of as much as I can. But then after 5, I sit down and I tell myself I'm either going to play video games for an hour to take my mind off of everything and then go back to hacking. Or if I'm hacking at work and it's past 5, I literally unplug my laptop. I go downstairs on the couch while my wife's watching TV, stuff that I don't care about. I sit down with her. I have it in the background watching, and I hack, and then I take a break to go eat dinner, and then wrap up whatever my night is. Spend time on yourself. It's not all about bug bounties, but have that routine also as well, which I think is very important. How do you juggle hacking with everything else in your life? Good routine. Time management is huge, and also I have started to. I print these every month, so I have a blank one for my January, and I try to write all the important things that I'm doing during the month, and I also put down goals that I want to achieve that month. It's been very, very helpful. So time management's huge. What is the meaning of life? I don't know. Live good, do good. There's a Persian saying that's good thoughts, good deed, and good doing. I think that's the meaning of life. Let me see what the actual is. Good deed, good thoughts, good word, I think is what it is. Yep. Good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. I think that is the meaning of life. Who were you before tech and security hit you? Oh, who were you before tech and security hit you? You could define yourself apart from your job. Kind of personal, but how were your finances before security? Did tech help you create wealth you haven't seen before? If so, did your perspective change on money? Bug bounties ruined the value of money. And I think I'm not the only person that says this. If you go back and listen to me and Joel TechnoGeek's interview, we talked about this a lot. But to go back to the original question, I was broke. I was a broke college kid. I was working, not even working. I was helping with some marketing projects for a friend. It was making me, enough money to float through college, make $100 here, $100 there. But then bug bounties came and it was just like, no. Like, this is where the money is. And it did change my perspective on life. Like, obviously everything, I'm a product of bug bounties. When I go to a conference, I always talk about how, if it wasn't for bug bounties, I probably wouldn't have had a career that I have today. But I do think that it ruined the value you see in money, because when you get, at one point, I think Zaid and I were talking about this. I think we got paid like, and this is going to sound very selfish and rude of me to say, but we got paid $500 for an XSS, and we just went, what the fuck, only $500 for this XSS? And then we realized, like, dude, we spent 20 minutes finding this, and we're complaining about getting $500 for 20 minutes of work. And that's not how it works. You shouldn't be complaining about that, because that $500 is someone's monthly salary or bi-weekly salary, whatever that is. So you have to think about that as well. It might not be, 20K payouts, but if you're spending an hour and getting $500, that's $500 an hour you got paid. Nobody makes that kind of money except bug bounty hunters, obviously. But think about that too. So that's one of the things that it ruined for me when it comes down to what it has done to me, honestly. But again, like, I've recognized that problem, and that's when I realized that, okay, I have a problem with that, and I just started saving up. And the biggest thing was saving up money. First year I bought a car, second year I bought a house, third year did another stuff. Like just saving up and doing things to grow as a person and not just being so tunnel visions on bug bounty. All right. Favorite roast of coffee. So Illy makes this medium roast. It's not fancy. I'm sorry if you're looking for something really fancy. But if you ever want to send me coffee, or if you see me at a conference, you want to give me coffee, Ellie has this medium roast. I love it, especially when you do a cold brew with it. It's awesome. How do people far from information security react to your activities? Oh boy, that is a really funny one. So I used to be very active on Instagram, and I used to have a pretty decent following for the stuff that I did around our city. I was a big part of the culture in the city that I live in, and I've seen that the people that were very close to me start unfollowing me and kind of distancing themselves from me because they didn't understand this hacking thing. And it's weird, but I also have people that I used to be friends with that are like, dude, what the fuck do you do for a living now? And I explained to him like, hey, it's hacking. I was always on as a kid, blah blah blah. It's funny seeing the reaction. My friends in the beginning, including my fiance, didn't believe or understand me, and I was like, I do hacking. I'm trying to get into this hacking thing. They started coming around more. But a lot of people, I see a lot of people just unfollowing me because I'm no longer a part of the city culture or whatever you want to call it. But it's funny seeing how they react to it. That's not a question. I'd like to thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thank you for watching and sending that in. How do you remember what you have learned after long study sessions? I don't really do study sessions. My way of studying is mostly by doing. So again, if I see a bug on the activity or on a blog post or a new research, whatever that is, my obsessive personality comes into play, and I want to find this bug as soon as I can, as many as I can. Jira drops an SSRF, for example, I am not going to stop until I find one. I don't care if it's a bug bounty program or a VDP. I want to know how this fucking thing works, and I'm going to do it. So that's my way of remembering it. How many hours in a day you give yourself to learn or update yourself, because you do lots of things? I don't do it per day. It's just, again, the doing part is the biggest thing for learning. But also, like, if I want to learn, for example, programming, I'm going to do 1 hour a day, for example. I just do an hour a day of that one thing, so you don't get burnt out, you retain the information, and also you don't get tired of doing it. But that's just for a small task. When it comes down to hacking, when you're actually developing skills and doing research, then it takes a lot more hours than just one. How often do you actually hack for? Recently, not a whole lot, just because at work my responsibilities have gone. I became more responsible for more projects. Is when I used to spend a lot of my time hacking. I would get 10 to 20% of my time to hack. So if we do it based on that, then maybe about 8 hours on a weekday, like 8 hours, 8 hours in the weekday, and then I want to say another 8 to 10 during the weekends or at night. So I try to do about 20 hours, because if you think about it, 40 hours of 40 hours of work and then 20 hours of hacking, that's 60 hours already. And I'm also streaming about 10 hours a week. That's 70 hours already, right? So you got to keep that in mind. You have to make sure you're getting enough sleep. You're spending time with your family. That's the biggest thing. You don't realize how much of an effect that has on your mentality, being surrounded by people that you care about and you want to hang out with. So keep that in mind. Balance is the biggest thing. How did you get started in IT and security? Well, I'm glad you asked. That's a loaded question. So I did when I was 12. My dad gave me about $100 to $200, and that was a lot of money when you were a kid, to buy a reseller service from another reseller. So I was doing web hosting reselling, and I was selling. I had cPanel and WHM access. I was just selling WHM. What is it? CS? What is that? What it was called? Yeah, web hosting manager. I sold a lot of web hosting to people that wanted to be artists, and they wanted to make sites or whatever it was, and that getting hacked is what peaked a lot of it. I got hacked before that, but then like when I got into the web service stuff and hearing that people get hacked and like you can secure your web servers and permissions in Linux and all that stuff was how I got started. And then I heard through a friend, he mentioned that you can hack companies like Yahoo and make money, and I was like, illegally, I don't know if I want to do that. And he said no, bug bounties are a thing. And that's how I got started with bug bounties specifically. How do you manage your time at work and home as well as bounties? I don't plan everything to be like, I don't have a schedule of weekday, like hour by hour of what I do, but I kind of have a mental like, okay, today example, it's Tuesday. If I have a date night with my wife, that Tuesday is completely blocked off. I'm not touching the computer, nothing. It's just dedicated to that. But other than that, you have 9 to 5. And afterwards, most people will spend it watching TV, guilty, playing video games. Cut down on those and dedicate it to the stuff that you want to do. And I think you'll see a huge change in your life, honestly. I was just telling Mason, and I play a lot of Rainbow Six, obviously. So I was just telling Mason, like, I got to cut down on Rainbow Six a little bit because I'm spending more time on ranked lately than I am on HackerOne. So if you recognize that problem, just cut it. You will be doing yourself a huge favor. Hold on, let's do this. How do you manage? Oh, we did this one already. Which environment for hacking do you use? Which is your setup? Go back to the beginning of the stream, but again, macOS for my primary if I could, and then SSH into Ubuntu. And if you want $100 credit, scroll down on Twitch or go into the description of the YouTube video. There is $100 credit for DigitalOcean. If you spend $25, I get $25 to fund my streams. But no pressure. If you don't want to use DigitalOcean, you don't have to. But that's just for me to get a little bit of money from it. What is the meaning of NahamSec? Zero meaning behind the word Naham. It's not a real word. It doesn't mean anything. It's a play on a word that has a meaning to me. It's a family thing. It's a bit of a personal thing. I've never talked about it. I think maybe 3 people, including my wife, know what it means. But it's a play on word about something that has a meaning to my family. What is success for you? I think success is... That's a very hard question. I think success is hitting your goals or going down swinging and actually trying. So if your goal is to make 20K in bug bounties and you only hit a 19,000, I think that's still success to me because you went down trying instead of just not trying at all. And if you hit 20K or more, good for you. But I think success is getting your goals and setting up small goals and larger goals in life. My biggest thing was before I'm 30, I wanted to become a manager. I'm 29, and it sounds childish, but I wanted to become a manager because I wanted to go up and learn everything I do in business, and that happened. Before that, for bug bounties, is my first thing was I wanted to become one of the top hackers. I wanted to make money from it. First of all, it was like I want to make 20K, and then it was I want to become a top hacker. Then it was I want to become more than just a top hacker and setting up those bigger goals that from 3 years from now I want to be doing these things. You have to have an entire big picture for yourself and also have smaller goals to achieve that big goal at the end of the year, at the end of the 5 year or whatever that is. So keep that in mind. Favorite Logic song? Oof. All right, let's see. Logic. Okay, so Execution, definitely a good one. It's this one. I don't know if you know this song, but that's one. Every Day is a really, really good one. This is another one. What else? On Young Sinatra, I like Everybody Dies, Glorious Five, Street Dreams, Legacy, and Iconic. He has a lot of good songs, honestly. And Everybody is also really good. This one. I like Logic a lot. I wish I could see him live, honestly. But yeah, Logic is a shit. What is your first hack and how to become a hacker? I don't know what that means. How do you deal with pushing yourself to find a bug and maybe run into a burnout or depression? Taking breaks, honestly. I push myself really hard, but I also realize when I'm getting burnt out. Burnouts happen when you are not making money, and money is a sign of progression to most bug bounty hunters. So I think you're getting burnt out when you're not making progress or getting results. And I did a tweet on this when I said, go do some CTFs, go write some code, do something that you feel accomplished. The feeling of not being accomplished is what makes you depressed and unhappy about yourself. So go do things that makes you feel accomplished. Go finish a video game. Go do something else that's not hacking. And I think that's the biggest way to deal with burnouts. Coffee break. Oh, I love this next question so much. Whoever asked this, thank you. Hey Moop, how's it going? All right, ready for next question, guys? Do you have any mentor in hacking? Directly, no. I wish I had someone I could call a mentor that, pretty much that actually take on to quote unquote mentor me. For hacking in specific, there were a few people that made a huge impact in my career. Thank you, Nathan. I appreciate it. The biggest one were, I'm going to say two people, the biggest ones, or three people. Let's just be real about it. Jonathan Cran used to be the VP of Hacker Operations or Security Operations, whatever the title is at Buckcrowd. He introduced me to Recon way too early before I even understood what that was. He got the gears moving a little bit, gave me some opportunities. He tried to, send me books, hired me, got on the phone with me, a lot of stuff that I think he went out of his way to do it. So I'm grateful forever with Jay Cran. But the next two that had a huge impact on me are both the same way. It's Yobert, HackerOne's co-founder, most people know him, Yobert Atma, and Zayat. Yobert and I are the same age, right? We are both working towards the same goal. We became friends. But Yobert took the time to listen to me bitch about the things that I didn't like, and he would give me honest feedback and advice on how to deal with it. He'd take the time to go and do this instead, go and learn this instead, focus your energy on this. And that's huge because there's been times that I've called Yobert on the phone, and I think he would also say this, that there was a year when I called him, I was like, dude, I'm done with this bug bounty community. I don't know what to do. I was getting attacked on Twitter a lot. And he took the time to do that, and it's huge. And the next one is Zayat. Zayat doesn't know this himself. This is why I'm dying to have him come on the stream, but Zayat didn't directly mentor me. Zayat and I want to say mentored each other. I don't think I have done anything to him, but he claims that I have helped him with stuff. But the both of us kind of taught each other everything we knew. He did, every time I would send him a potential bug or something that's really important, he wouldn't just say, here's what I did. He would tell me the whole thought process. Same thing with me. If he would send me something and I would find a way to get through with it or exploit it, I would do the same back. We weren't doing this to teach each other. We were just trying to make money together, and we really learned from one another a lot because he was learning how to do red team stuff and I was just learning how to do attack web stuff. And the combination of both of us trying to become really good at both of those together really, really helped. So I highly recommend finding someone that knows as much or a little bit more than you do and pushing each other to get better. We put up some like dumbass goals. Like one of our goals one year was, let's find a bug on every bug bounty program on HackerOne. And we made a list of every bug bounty program. We made notes. We didn't get every single bug bounty program, but we got up there. We got some really cool bugs. But we were pushing each other like, yo, let's be on at 7 p.m. tonight and let's hack on Snapchat, for example. We spent time on Snapchat and then we found bugs. So having someone to keep you in check and calling you out and helping you is very, very important. It doesn't have to be a mentor. It could be a friend as well. But I look at these people as mentors as well. Why is everyone so triggered right now? Is it because of the Pentester Lab? Jeez. I don't know how many I've given away so far. I think this has just been 8 so far. I don't know. I suck at getting anything done. I know I can learn and do things, but I can't seem to start. And if I start, I can't get the momentum going. What is the question? I think you just have to figure out what you want to do in life. And I've been there. It sucks, but no one's going to do it other than you. And if you're going to have to do it for you and nobody else, honestly. So, sorry. I really don't know what to say. Do you think bug bounty and finding bugs in general can be used as a thesis paper? Yes. You can do a research on it for a thesis, but it can't just be bug bounties. It has to be a particular thing in bug bounties. Balancing education and bug bounty time management. We did this already. Do you speak any other languages besides English? I used to be fluent in French. I spent a lot of time in Switzerland on the French part of it. And I obviously speak Farsi as well. So those are the two. Mental health, gaming, when you game too much, frustration at learning. We talked about this a little bit. If you weren't doing hacker bug bounty related work, what would you be doing? Ooh. I don't know. I think I would want to own my own business. I don't know, restaurant, bar, something that would be entertainment, I think. That's what I would do. Story behind my handle, we talked about it. How do you say your last name? Sadegipur. It's the white version of my last name. How Americans say it. Sadegipur. Can you list down the things that you try when you say upload picture future? Uploads. So what I look for is bypasses. Can I upload anything outside of an image? Does it allow SVGs? Because those have XML in them. You can do a lot of stuff with it. Can I do image tragic or image magic? Any of those varieties. Can I upload to someone else's profile? Can I change the content type and that sort of stuff? I actually like this question too, so let's mark it an X. Holy crap, we're only a third of the way down. I gotta speed it up. No, we're halfway there. Okay, how much time do I have? I have another 45 minutes. Let's do this. iDoors, as I don't know why, but I try every numeric value but didn't success. What am I missing? Maybe you make 2 accounts and attack each other instead of going after numeric values. So make an account. You know, when you make that account that your target account, make sure that has enough data. So populate data. Airbnb's case, I had an account that had a reservation, hosting, all that good stuff, and on another account I would attack that other target account. So you have to populate data and then go after it. You can't just, you know, randomly go for it. What is it like working at HackerOne? It's a curse and a blessing. It's a curse because it comes with a lot of baggage. Some people look at me a little bit different. A lot of hackers treat me, I feel like, different because I work at the vendor and I'm one of them, even though I was a hacker first. But it's also a blessing because there's a lot of benefits to it. I get to network with a lot of more people. People approach me more because I work at HackerOne. I've learned a lot, and it has its own benefits, but it's a curse and a blessing. But the company itself is great. The people that I work with on our community team, they're awesome. If you don't know, I work on the community team at HackerOne. I oversee all of our Hacker 101 stuff now, but to name a few people that are on that team, Luke, who was our director, awesome dude to work with, very, very cool dude to work with. Huge shout out to him. Ariel, Site, Jen, Jess, and Sarah, all great people to work with. The team that I work with is awesome, so I enjoy being there. Could you talk us through about the culture at HackerOne? What is it like to be there, your daily routine at work? What's the difference between your previous role and your new one? The culture is cool because, like, even though I work from home, I feel very involved, and you get to hear about everything. We have a very cool distributed / remote culture. My day to day is pretty much I wake up at around 7:30 in the morning. I try to ignore my phone, so my phone actually gets plugged in right there. I don't take it into my bedroom with me, so it stays away until I'm ready for work. I don't check into work until 9 a.m. unless I have a meeting that I know about the night before. I check out my calendar. If I have a meeting in the morning, then I wake up for it. But outside of that, meetings, get some work done. I try to work for 50 minutes, take a 10-minute break. If I have nothing going on that day, then hack a little bit. My previous role was the head of hacker operations. Anything that the hackers, so the way I would explain is anything that affects the experience of our hackers on the platform, I want to know about. That included mediation when I was overseeing it. That included feature requests, invites, whatever that was. So it was really fun seeing all that, and it's given me a lot of insight on how things work. How's it like being a part of HackerOne Triage? Did you come across reports with new techniques you didn't know about and surprising findings? It was great being a part of the Triage team because it gave me information on how much work goes into having a bug bounty program, how much back and forth there is. Like, a lot of hackers think the Triage team acts like gods and they don't care to take it to the customer. There's a lot of things that happen in the background. If there's something they're not sure, it goes through the program management team. The customer gets involved. It's not just that we don't ignore the customer. At the end of the day, the customer gets to decide what happens. But as far as techniques go, not really. I mean, I saw some stuff, but when you're doing triage, you're focused on work. You're not focused on learning, right? I have a job to go through these tickets and try to triage all these tickets for this customer, whatever that is, right? So I don't have a lot of time to absorb the information. But at the end of the day, you see some techniques, but I don't know. Like, you're going to learn a lot, but at the end of the day, you're in work mode. You're not focused on learning as much. I honestly can't really think of a bug that I remember from my days being a triage. I'm trying to think. There was a lot of supplement takeovers back then when I was doing triage, so those were really, really cool to see. Who I can prepared well to be a HackerOne staff. Don't know what that means. What does HackerOne look out for hiring the analyst? The biggest thing that so actually I was a part of the team that put together the interview process for H1 triage. The biggest thing is communication. Think about this. If you can't communicate well enough, so let's say you are communicating on the platform. If you can't already communicate well enough with the staff or customers, you're not going to be able to communicate with other hackers who are not primarily English speaking people. So communication is a very, very important thing, especially written communication, because you have to make sure what you're typing isn't coming up as offensive, isn't coming off as rude, or it's coming off very clear on what's missing. So that's the biggest thing. And also being able to demonstrate on that you actually understand web application security. How to get a job in InfoSec full time? It's a very broad question. I feel like we answered that already. What is the hacker life like? Is it worth it? Can you make great money doing it in a short period of time? You can, but if you're just doing it for money, don't do it. You're going to have a miserable time. Did joining HackerOne make you famous, or would that have happened anyways? I think joining HackerOne kind of had a huge impact in it, but that's not to say that I didn't put in a lot of work, and I don't think I'm famous, first of all. I don't care about the fame part, but I think it gave me a bigger platform because I was attached to HackerOne a little bit. I'm going to conferences on HackerOne's dime. So those things really help. But at the end of the day, the research wasn't done by HackerOne. I did the research. The write-ups wasn't done by HackerOne. The streams, the YouTube videos, the tweets, the information that comes out was all done by me. But HackerOne really gave me a boost to do all that at a larger scale. And I kind of hope that it stays that way. Like I can do more of these for HackerOne, and it's going to also help my personal branding as well. Does HackerOne have a internship program? I don't know. Some teams do, but I don't think we have them for triage or the community team at all, unfortunately. What was your first professional experience with cybersecurity? Was it Bugcrowd? I saw a talk from 2015 with you and Jason Haddix and just got curious about it. Yeah, my first, it wasn't my first experience with cybersecurity, but I did a year of application security engineering at Bugcrowd. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. I don't want to get into it too much, but it didn't work out. Some things were said, some things weren't said, and things didn't work out. I took a break for a year. I worked at Hulu for a little bit, and then I interned at HackerOne for a few months to see if I like it. And it turned out HackerOne wanted to hire me a year later, and I went to HackerOne. But yeah, Bugcrowd had a small role in it as well. How to get interact internal team of H1 or Bug. I don't know what that means. How to get interact. I don't know what that means. How to search about RC. Okay, deleting that. Fingerprinting Jira. Okay. Those are the questions that are not going to get answered. Do you sometimes keep a bug until you find another one to chain it to improve impact? What is your thought on the ethically? Is that even a word? All right. Will I keep a bug? Yes. Will I keep it forever? No. If I find an XSS, I'm going to hold on to it for a little bit so I can actually, like for example, is it a PDF generator? I have an XSS. Absolutely, I'm going to hold on to it until I can't export it as an SSRF. If I have an open redirect, same thing. But if I find an IDOR that doesn't require a chain, I'm not going to hold on to it. I hold on to it for maybe a few hours, but I don't want to get duped, so I always report after a while. But it depends on the bug type as well. I feel spidering and burp has become slower in version 2. I don't know. I don't use spidering and burp. What mistakes have you made over the course of the career that you recommend newbies avoid? Be nice to people. In the beginning, I was a little bit too harsh on some of the programs, I think. But that was because they were very, very slow, like months of not hearing back at all. But then you don't realize how much work goes into a program to get, like, I don't think bug bounty hackers understand the amount of work that go into a bug bounty program. And they all think it's just, oh, it's easy. You're a huge company. You should be able to answer me. No, there's a lot of work that go on. There's legal teams involved. There's developers involved. There's security teams involved. Directors are involved. Everything you can think of get involved. The bigger the company, the more people get involved. So please be patient. There's always, you don't have to be rude when you're asking for follow-ups. You don't have to blame people if you're asking for help and if your bugs don't get triaged. So that's one of them. And the other one is know how to show impact of your bug without crossing any boundaries. And I think there is a question about that later on. How can I get involved in the bug bounty community as a beginner? It seems quite intimidating to start talking to people, mostly because I am still inexperienced. I don't think it's intimidating to start talking to people. Go on Twitter, sign up for an account. That's how I got started. I just went on Twitter and I followed people and I, tweeted under their tweets, and some people replied, some people didn't. Now, the ones that did reply obviously are still around, and the people that didn't reply came around after a while, but you always remember who actually wanted to help you and who didn't want to help you. But I think Twitter is one of the best ways to do it. Oh shit, Donut's here. What's up, Donut? How can I get involved in the bug bounty? Did that? Can newcomers really depend on bug bounty? Again, if you're doing this for money, go do something else. How do you recommend a person invest his first or second bounty, irrespective of the amount? Has not bought anything till date, so where should he invest the money earned? His goal is to upskill himself in the field or hacking and bug bounties. Go do some certificates. If you are new to hacking and you want to get a better understanding of hacking, Go do your OSCP. Go and spend some money on Pentester Lab. Invest your money in a course. Become a better programmer. That depends on your goal. If you want to become a better hacker and you want to use your money to do that, go do some certificates. It's not that expensive, and if you do the right certificates, I feel like you're gonna get a better value out of your money. I think one of the biggest mistakes pen testers do when they go to bug bounty hunting is the lack of focus. They just run after all types of bugs. After 7 months of starting bug bounty, I realized that every content out there is talking about bigging bug bounty from technical perspective, but what about the mental part and the experience from the mistakes that pros learn from? I hope you especially transfer that experience to us. I'll be more than happy. You're one of my biggest motivations. I wanted to give up more than once, if not your videos. And my great friend Malcolm X, he's one of the, I don't know what this means. I'm sorry, I can't follow this question, but lack of focus is a big thing. You have to see what works for you. Some people like to put headphones on and hack. I like to go downstairs, watch TV in the background. I like the background noise thing. It has to be like some dumb reality TV that I don't care about, so I don't have to focus on the actual video itself or the show itself. But yeah, I mean, I don't get the question, and I apologize, but you have to understand what works for you and kind of stick to it. 500 internal server error. Why do I have this preconceived notion that on big target like Yahoo and Google I would not find any bugs because many great hackers are hacking on them? Wrong. Yahoo and Google, code changes on regular basis, new apps coming out, new changes. It is going to be harder because more people are looking at them, but again, you have to think outside of the box. The people that go after Google and Yahoo and set the goal, it's not about finding a bug, it's a personal accomplishment. I'm going to hack Yahoo or I'm going to hack Google, and spending time to actually do that sets you apart from other hackers. That makes you become the next top hacker because you're setting up these hard goals of finding a bug on these hard companies, and throughout that process you're going to learn a lot more than you think. So I don't think you're not going to find any bugs. It's just going to be, you have to find those areas that might be vulnerable. You've relied on bug bounties to pay your bills in some point of your life. Do you have some tips and want to tell what to look for and what kind of programs to choose? Not save up every dime, but what I would say is percentages. Percentages are very, very important. Set up a so what I did was I would save up about 60 to 75% of most of my bounties, and then another 25 to 30% was buying things that I needed in life or buying things that I wanted. Then that kind of gives you that balance of how to do it. But I genuinely think you should save up your money, especially if you're in your early 20s or if you're a teenager at all. Like, save up that money, invest it in something, invest it in stock, buy some Bitcoin, or put it in an IRA, whatever that works with you. Invest or save up. Investment could be more than just, doing stock or any of that. It could be buying a house, buying a car, investing in yourself. Do whatever works with you. I see Hazana saying don't buy Bitcoin. I didn't buy Bitcoin, but I know people that did and they made a fuck ton of money from it. But again, you want to do the things that work with you. What kind of programs to choose? I like the programs that are huge. I don't mean like start.site.com. It could be the app is huge, or it could be a program that has a huge app, but also how fast they pay, how often they pay, and the minimum and max bounties play a huge role. And also it depends on my goals. Like when I went after Airbnb, API fuzzing, IDORs were huge on my list, and Airbnb was a great place to learn it because they had a huge API. So I took advantage of it. So I think you have to understand, you have to also depend on your goal as well. How do you start on a big company? How do you escape from WoW 700 resolved bugs? Oh, I've already answered that. Is Shopify a good target for beginners? Thank you for the follow. It's a good one, but it's going to be hard. They've been around for a while, but reach out to Pete Jaworski. Ask him where to focus, and he will give you some pointers. It's going to be hard, but if you have your goal to hack Shopify, and if you do find a valid bug, I bet you're gonna learn a lot more than setting up some easy goals. I already talked about this. What do you do when you usually get stuck? I've already talked about this, but take breaks, do some CTFs, hang out with family, play video games, whatever makes you feel better about whatever's going on. The difference between what we read about bug methodology in books, blogs, tutorials, and how we can actually apply in real world. I always see there's a missing loop. Just saying. Again, I talked about this earlier. If I see a vulnerability or methodology that I like, I try to learn it and implement it in my methodology. So it's, again, stop worrying about how others have done it. Learn the idea, retain all that information and implement it in your way of hacking. Come up with your own methodology. I think that's the biggest thing. What do you look for inside the Chrome dev panel when looking for XSS, for example? I look for the network tab, what kind of things are happening in the network tab, what calls are being made, API calls and JavaScript files being fetched. And also, if I'm looking for XSS in the developer panel, right here is what I put test 1, 2, 3 into my user input. I look for test 1, 2, 3 here to see where it comes up and if it's vulnerable to any XSS. Can I close the tag that I'm stuck in, and that sort of stuff. How to restart recon. I'm gonna delete this one. It's like a million of them. How many? That doesn't matter, I don't think. How can we know to start a bug bounty program? Run a few scanners on a regular basis, I guess. And if you're not finding bugs, then slowly open it up. I'm not sure. I don't understand what the question is. How can someone avoid fixating himself on testing that seems like vulnerable endpoint without falling too deep in a rabbit hole and get stuck? Depends. Like, if you have a hunch there is a bug, try and think of the different attack vectors and try every single one of them. And then if you don't find any bug, just make a note of that endpoint, save it somewhere, and go back to it days, weeks after you've given up, and see if you can exploit it later. You just have to, if you get tired of an endpoint, don't push it, just move on. There's plenty of other endpoints to look at. I actually like that question. Taxes with bug bounties. How much they? Okay, so when I was doing it outside of HackerOne, because right now my bug bounties go on top of my paycheck at HackerOne, so I don't have to deal with taxes. But before I did, I would literally go to my HackerOne profile, or my PayPal. Sorry, my PayPal would show all my earnings, take a screenshot of it, add it up, total up, deduct all my server costs, computer costs that I've spent, on keyboard, on buying a PC, buying a laptop, whatever, write it off, and then report it as extra income. But also remember that this is not legal advice, and it also depends on where you're living. So I have all these certificates. What do you think I should continue with CCNA, or should I start studying for something like a pen tester, eLearn PTS, or the OSCP? If you want to jump into pen testing, I would recommend doing the eLearn's PTS. That's the one that I was talking about earlier, and definitely do your OSCP. I think those two will definitely, even if you don't pass OSCP, it will give you a better understanding of the offensive mentality. So I would say definitely give those a try. I mean, it's good to have A+, Network+, and Security+ to get the basics, but if you really want to get into pen testing and bug bounties, the last two that you put in there, I think are your better bets. What is the most common place you find SSRF? Anywhere that lets me fetch or put in a URL for an external URL to fetch an image, file, and integration, and that sort of stuff. Do you recommend practicing understanding web before entering bug bounties? Yes, understand the basics of web technology, not security, not hacking, web technology. Headers, requests, what the ports are, what common ports are, different response codes and all that good stuff, and then jump into bug bounties and learn about security. Thank you for the new follows. I appreciate it. I already talked about this. How important is it to know web programming like PHP or any other programming languages for bug bounties? I don't know a whole lot of PHP or Ruby or Python. I'm actually learning Python now. But I do understand. I don't want to say I have a solid web understanding, but I understand what goes behind building a website, and I think that's what helped me become a better bug bounty hunter. So you have to understand something at a deeper level. If it's not programming, is to understand at least how our site's set up. How do you install Apache, and how do you install PHP? How do you make them work together? How do you set up WordPress, for example? Those are things that give you a little bit of understanding of web technology, I think. When you first started hunting, before you even got your first bug, do you ever feel like you didn't study enough yet to find bugs? I didn't study at all. My studying was to look for bugs. I went out and just looked. DoD is still one of the best ones to do that on. How do you know when you submit a bug? More specifically, how do you get past is this enough for us to submit? If you have proof to show the impact, so example, if you have an IDOR and you can show that you can get another user's data, that's proof enough. Instead of dumping like all the users' data, just do it one or two. Do it to your other accounts. I think that's the biggest thing. If it comes down to RCE, for example, I show that I have remote command execution, I report it, and I say, here are the things that I think I can do. I think I can access X, Y, and Z. Could you please give me permission to do so? If they say yes, then go ahead. If they say no, you can say, could you at least try this for me and let me know if it worked? And most times, depending on the company, they have a team that understands, like Uber and Yahoo have internal red teams that could do that for you. But asking permission has been one of the biggest things. How can one get better at asking questions? Get detailed. Like, these are some really good questions. Like, you're telling me a little bit of what you have tried and what you haven't tried. You're giving me context. You're not making it a super huge, broad question. That's what helps people answer your questions better. Is Pentester Lab worth buying? Yes, absolutely. Are OSCP and OSWE useful for bug bounty, not pen testing? Yes, it gives you knowledge, but again, you can take all these different courses, but it comes down to you to actually try and learn and get better at all these. I don't know what to do post-recon. I've talked about that. I'm going to get rid of this question. There's been a lot of questions about post-recon, and I hope I answered them already. How to select a website. I talked about that. How do I choose a program? Talked about that. Should I specialize in specific vulnerability types? Yes, you should get better at one and understand how to identify them before you move on to next. So my thing is, like, I did XSS, I got better at it. Then I did IDOR, I got really better at it. SSRF, I got better at it. These are the three things that I always look for, and I've done them one by one, and I've built a methodology around how to identify and exploit these bugs, and I've built that around, I've done that by just spending time on one vuln type, and then when you learn to do these by themselves and you bundle it up, it makes your life a little bit easier, I think. Security, I see what you did there. This one I've already talked about. Again, if I find a new vulnerability type that I like to learn, what I'm going to do is I am going to find a target where I can exploit this on. Most of the time it's DoD or a program with wildcard scopes. The best way to learn something is by doing it. Spin up this thing on your own. If you find if there's a new bug on this, application that you see there's an exploit drop for, install it locally and go try it out and learn it. Oops. And learn it. That's the best way to do it. Tomcat setup page several times. How can I exploit them? Well, you have to show impact. Think about it this way. if this was my site and I was the one paying for a bounty, did I show enough impact or a reason to get paid? And if the answer is maybe, then it's not maybe, it's a no. POCs are the most important thing. So you can't just say, I found these Tomcat setup pages. So what? They're still sitting there, but can you exploit it? Can you do something about it? Googling it would be the best thing you can do, I think. How do you take notes of the bugs? I don't take any notes, honestly. Again, I do more than I take notes. Get down and dirty. I think that's the best way to do it. And I think I just talked about that earlier. I've kind of talked about this a little bit. I'm going to skip. When using a droplet, how do you get files to your PC when needed? SCP, or just zip it and put it on your Apache and download it from your web browser. I think that would be the easiest way. What is your advice for new bug bounty hunters? And what is your methodology to check vulnerabilities in web application? Certain RCEs. The biggest things for RCE is places where you can put a URL, applications like Jenkins, Jira, things that may have vulnerabilities, Tomcat, JMX consoles, that sort of things. My methodology is just looking for, I have ways that I've identified that work for me to find particular bugs. I just keep repeating the same thing on every target I go to, but the biggest thing is understanding how the site works. And the biggest advice for new bug bounty hunters, don't just ask for advice. Take the advice that people are giving you instead of just fishing for it. I feel like a lot of people ask for advice, but they don't want to listen to me when I give them the advice. So if you're asking for advice, at least be open to it. What is the most exciting finding you could show? Could you show up how you found it? I can tell you what it was, but I can't show you how I found it. The most exciting one was there's this Dana VPN. I don't know who makes it. Who makes this? Okay, whoever makes this. I don't know who makes it. I don't know who makes this. Anyways, this used to have a SSRF. Post. There we go. Post Connect Secure. Used to have an SSRF. I SSRF'd one of them on a company on HackerOne that put me on an internal network, like the actual internal network that they had all their stuff. And then right before that, I found credentials to a Jenkins that was internal. And I was actually able to log into the internal Jenkins instance. And the entire way that it was happening was really, really exciting because it was my first time really breaching into a company's network and actually having RC internally and had access to everything. I had the keys of the kingdom. And it was really exciting. Unfortunately, they didn't pay me a max bounty payout, and I gave him middle finger and walked away. I didn't really give him the middle finger, but I walked away. If it's out of scope, if one is found out of scope, what are your thoughts on neither disclosure and it's incompatible with being a good faith researcher on HackerOne? First of all, why are you finding a bug out of scope, and who cares to disclose it? Like, why are you going out of scope, first of all? And I don't know, why would you want to disclose it? To get pay back? Because I feel like a lot of people that disclose bugs that are out of scope or not getting paid is to just put companies on blast, and I don't think that's okay. But if you did research that's genuinely good research, then I don't see a reason why the company wouldn't be okay with it. I'm releasing a video soon about a research I did, and the company doesn't want to be a part of it, but guess what? I'm going to publish my research. I'm just going to not mention your name. I'm just going to talk about how I found the bug, and I've recreated that bug on my own, and I made a video on it. Easy as that. What languages would you like to learn, and why is it Rust? Because I'm rusty, and Donut has a bad influence on me. I'm not learning Rust. But I would like to learn Rust at some point. Right now, I'm focused on Python because I want to write some really cool tools that I have in mind. But I'll be open to learning Rust. I just don't want to go down the rabbit hole of Rust right now. How do you keep moving forward? Tips. Talked about that. What makes you stop digging at an endpoint? When I'm out of ideas and attacks, vectors or scenarios that I can come up with, it's when I give up. You have to think about different ways of approaching it, finding the right parameters, thinking about what the endpoint itself is, what kind of bugs could come out of that. So it all depends on the input itself. Doing bug bounties and work, but with my ratio, I'll be happy with 80% work, 20% hacking. That'll be fine. We talked about this. How hard likely is it to find a critical bug for you? Depends on the program. Sometimes it's very easy. Sometimes it takes me weeks. Sometimes it doesn't happen. I don't focus on finding critical. It's just I focus on finding bugs and hitting my monthly, quarterly, and yearly goals. The rest of it, I don't really care. How much have you earned through bounties in 2019? 130, 140? I don't know. Something in the hundreds. I don't remember it, honestly. Because it goes on my paycheck, I don't pay attention to it, but I want to say about 100 and some change. Low six figures, which is about the same amount I've made at work. So as long as I can match my work salary, I think I'll be okay. Will you start disclosing one of your highest bounties? Yes, I have plans for that. But the biggest one was 15K. Twice. It was really fun. Same bug. That's why I said it was really fun. In your opinion, should you put your bug bounty skills on the resume? Yes, absolutely. I put mine under, I put NahamSec, and I put like founder, like, I work for, or I said self, and I put NahamSec, like I work for myself. And then I did stuff like some of the big CVEs. I have some CVEs on Apple, for example, that I put on there. Some of the, I've learned, I've found XYZ vulnerabilities on these companies. So build it a part where it shows you work for yourself, and it doesn't have to be just bug bounty itself. It could be, I've done workshops, I've done presentations, I've done research, CVEs, and all that good stuff. How do you see this field in the next 10 years? I think there's going to be more companies doing it. Once the governments get more involved, I think more companies are going to be open to it. So I think it's going to be definitely growing more and more. After doing some recon, how do you find bugs? Okay, I'm not answering that because I've already done a bunch of those. I've kind of talked about this. Again, I don't go on a program just to find specific bugs. Example, I want to say I want to hack Snapchat. I'm going to say I want to give myself 2 weeks. I spend the 2 weeks on that program before I move on. Again, that works for me. It might not work for you. But again, timing it, also my goals. It's getting on the way of me getting my monthly goal, then I'm going to move over. And once I hit my goal, I go back to it. It all depends on who you are and how you work. What's your advice to someone who wants to become a full-time bug bounty hunter but has a full-time job and can't find the time? If you have time for Reddit, YouTube, and video games, you definitely have time for hacking. That includes myself. So, which kind of bug should I try first in bug bounties? You should learn XSS because it's one of the easiest bugs and most common ones. CSRF or CSRF, most common and easy way to learn. IDOR as well. Information disclosure, some of it could be very easy to do. Those are the 4 that I would start with and then move on to the next ones. Most efficient way to content discovery. I have 2 lists that I use. I have a small list that I call it quick hits. It's about 300 to 400 lines. I run that first. If I don't find anything at all, then I go to a bigger list that's about 50,000. And then sometimes I have one that's like 400,000 that I barely use, but that's when I know there's something there, but I need to find it. And I think all of those could be found on SecList too. It's a lot of fun. You have some more tools to play with. A lot of people are stuck in between what to do after recon. Talked about that already. Sorry. We talked about this already. The web application mostly. I've done a few bug bounties and CTFs. I'm not a pro at coding. I'm looking for a job as a security analyst or pen tester, but I feel like I'm missing skills. What is your suggestion? What should I focus on? Do a few resources. There's HackerOne 101. There's Pen Tester Lab. There are a lot of those that I think you can use. But again, like nobody's going to teach you other than you. So you need to spend a little bit of time on your own to learn all of these. Also, if you have the money or your job is willing to pay for it, get a certificate of some sort. How to be the best in the business. Okay. If I think you found the bug and have recreated the scenario, but I'm not sure if it's a bug or not, should I submit it? Yeah, I would submit it and just tell them, hey, I don't understand if this is a bug. I don't understand your business model, for example. Could you please tell me if this is a bug or not? And I think most people will be nice about it and let you self-close. Oh my God, I'm getting tired of talking. Okay, we're almost done, and then I have to do these questions that you guys sent in. If you have questions, send them into this link. I think someone in the chat just posted the link. Can someone post the link if you don't have it? Hey, the blind hacker, how's it going? Have you created any curated list of test cases for searching vulnerabilities on target? Because I noticed that most of the bug bounty hunters not exposing that part. What is the flow of pen testing of a web application based on the customer? No, I don't have a list. Again, I look for particular bugs, and my biggest thing is outside of those bugs, XSS, IDOR, SSRF, and quote unquote RCE. The biggest thing that I try to do is, the other approach that I have is, how do I own this company entirely? That's when the recon thing comes into play. Like, I want to look for the things that could get me a way into the internal network, prove impact, and that sort of thing. I don't think I don't have a checklist of like, oh, I did this, done. That's not what I do. I don't know if other hackers do this as well. Been doing this for 5-6 years, and those I've been familiar with a lot of stuff. Where's the question on this? My question is, I have been seeing a lot of resources for about 10-15 days. Also been confused by a lot of things to get started. Bug bounties, premium software like Burp, which I won't be afford recently, I guess. First of all, Burp, you guys see me do Burp. I do Burp usually. I use Burp, but I don't use the paid version of Burp. I don't pay the paid version. You don't have to get it. You don't need it. You don't have to do it. You can do a lot of it manually with Bash. I use Burp. The only reason why I paid for Burp is the intruder, I think. And you can do that in Bash if you really need to. Again, you are investing time. The only thing you are investing is your time. And the return of investment is very, very high when it comes down to it. If you have a lot of resources, focus on the ones that are valuable to you. If you want to learn web, go after the web learning resources. If you want to learn about mobile, go after those resources specifically. I don't really understand what the question is. So if you are someone who's asking this question and watching this right now, can you re-add it to the form? Or if you're watching this on YouTube, send me a tweet on YouTube and on Twitter, and I would love to give you some more advice. How does a target company know your IP address is a HackerOne researcher and not a real hacker? So how do you stop them from reporting you? They won't report you for the bug bounty program. They'll report you if you're doing malicious stuff. You can add a header to your request on Burp that says, X-HackerOne researcher, and put your username in there just to be safe. But there's also been times when I found an RCE and they've asked for my IP address just so they can investigate it. So it all depends. But if I have a bug bounty program, I don't see a reason why they would get pissed and report you to the cops. Knock on wood, I haven't seen that happen yet. What hardware is the best to start with? A potato. Again, you don't need a hardcore setup. You need an SSH key and SSH box. And that's about it. I know people that are hacking on their phones, by the way. So I don't think you need a juiced up setup for bug bounties. Are there too many outlets to learn? Yeah, absolutely. But the outlets are there because each of them do it differently. So if you want to, whatever works with you, go after that and use that particular outlet. Thank you, the blind hacker. I appreciate all those giveaways. I like this question, so I'm gonna mark it as an X. What do you use as your hacking rig? Is it valuable to have a VPS? We already talked about this. Do I recommend Vulture? No, because they kicked me out. But I recommend DigitalOcean. This is not an endorsement. They're not my sponsor. I recommend them because I have a $100 gift from them. So if you want to download, or if you want to get a $100 credit to DigitalOcean, scroll down below. There's $100 for you, whether you're on YouTube or Twitch. It's both in there. All right. How many more do we have? We have like 30 more. Talked about this already. If you had to pick the most important skill habit you develop that helps you with hacking, which one would it be? Time management for sure. Time management and prioritizing things for sure. And I really like that question. It says 50. I have to update it. Sorry, chat. But it is $100. They just upped it to 100 without me knowing. What background do you need to start with bug bounties? What would you suggest a newbie to start with? Understand the basics of web technology. What does it go in the? What happens in the back, where a website is loaded? How is it set up, and all that good stuff. If you want to learn more, there is a big thank you to Ash Fox, by the way, for this. But if you go to my GitHub repository right here, holy crap, it got 100 more stars since yesterday. The basics. I think this is one of the things that most hackers underestimate. So if you're new, check this out. Learn some of these, understand them. I think you would. You can thank me later for it, I think. What is the future of bug bounties? I think it's going to become government regulated, like we're government required to do it at one point. And I think when that happens, there'll be more and more programs coming up. Hold on one second. All right. Oh, there are requirements, but I think like once it becomes, like a requirement to have a bug bounty program for every company out there, it's when it becomes huge. I think they're becoming more government focused right now, and I think eventually it's going to become outside of governments too. Chaining bugs, the big chains that lead to big bugs like SSRF. How do you find them? How do you exploit them? What does the report look like? That's a very loaded question, but there are a bunch of different ways you can chain bugs. The biggest one and most common one is the good old school open redirect that is required for SSRF for like times where the URL parameter is whitelisted to a domain. You go and find a open redirect on that domain and you exploit it. The report doesn't look any different. This is a very loaded question, unfortunately, but maybe I can do a video on this. So I'm gonna make this as a I actually like this. I'm gonna mark it as green for a video for later on. And thank you for asking that. Which book is good to start for intermediate level? Intermediate level bug bounty, and what is recon? I'm not gonna answer the what is a recon thing, but as far as books go, I don't have them on me right now, but the real web bug hunting by Jaworski, the Web Application Hackers Handbook, what else? The Red Team Field Manual, the Hacker Playbook by Peter Kim, Black Hat Python. Those are some books I think you should definitely look into. How you approach sites when they get 404 blank pages. I already answered that about 403 sites. It's about the same approach. Just because it doesn't show anything doesn't mean there isn't anything behind that site. At one point, do you know you can sneak an XSS? I tend to spend a lot of time. Just the first part itself. Anytime that you put in something in the website and it comes back on your browser and shows it to you, that's a good indication to look for SSRF. Anytime you put in again, another user input, but it doesn't come on the web page itself, but it shows it in the source, in the DOM, that's also another indication to look for XSS. What are some resources to get started with Android pen testing? Pentester Lab has some stuff. HackerOne has some stuff. Google definitely has some stuff. There are a ton of blog posts. There are a ton of research that have been done. YouTube talks. Google is the best tool to do it. But also I think doing those Pentester Lab and HackerOne stuff will be really, really helpful. When I start working after finding out supplements, I get lost. I'm not going to answer that. We talked about it. what would your approach to start penetrating programs like Razor? We talked about this. Imagine for a lot of people trying to get into pen testing or cyber, and it's hard to understand what do you need to do, or even hard to know what steps to take. What do you suggest to get sufficient with before beginning to do any bug bounties? Learn scripting, learn the basics of again, web app, what goes into what goes into creating a website, understand the basics of what things mean when you connect to a website, the things that happen in the background, and then get into OWASP top 10, different vuln types, how to also fix those vuln types, give you a better understanding how to exploit it. And that's one of the things I did. I read a few books on how to prevent these really well-known vulnerabilities, and how do you fix them is what gave me a different approach to all of these. All right. Are bug bounties all about trying to increase your work attack surface? No, not necessarily. It's mostly about showing impact. The recon thing and increasing your attack surface is to have more to find bugs on, not to just, it's not to generate more work. It's just if you don't find bugs on this subdomain, you go to the next one, until you find one. What are some good programs for beginners? Depends on your goals, but if you genuinely just want to learn, DoD, IBM, Ford, I know these are all VDPs, but they're huge programs. GM is another one. They're huge programs, and there's still vulns on there. Anytime I've done a training or a workshop, I've used those programs, and I want to say 2 to 3 people have always came out with bugs after looking at those. So if you want to learn, that's your best bet. After reading the Hacker's Handbook, I'm unable to know how to proceed. I had read from many blogs to follow other hackers, but I don't find them useful. Just want to know what to do to progress as a bug hunter. Get down and go start looking for vulns. I would say read, example, if you're learning XSS, look up 10, 15 write-ups on how to find XSS. You will see a pattern of the same stuff happening over and over after a while, and use that pattern recognition to find more XSS on your own. Google for parameters on a particular target. Mimic those exact approaches for your own and learn from others. I already talked about this. I'm 16. I spent the last 3 months. I actually like the way this person asked this question, so I'm gonna mark it as an X. Last 3 months learning basic Python, basic pen testing. If you know OWASP top 10, then jump in there and go hack on the DoD, IBM, GM, set up some goals, and make sure you find some bugs. This one we already talked about. So let's get to the questions that you guys just recently asked. All right, not too many of them. Thank God. My mouth is getting tired of talking, to be honest, and I'm sure your ears are tired of me talking. Are you coping up with your bug bounty? How are you coping up with your bug bounty life, personal passion, career? I don't know what that means. Is the person asking this question still here? I'll come back to that later. Have you encountered reports that are not very well detailed and the researcher himself or herself is rude or impatient? How do you cope up with these? I don't deal with those. A lot of times I try to detach the person from the reports when it comes down to teaching him stuff. There are different factors when it comes down to writing well detailed reports. And the rudeness is because of their background, their previous experience somewhere else. I try to give them the benefit of the doubt when it comes down to all these. I try to not take things personal. I think that when you're communicating through text, it's easy to get lost in the message itself. So I try to tell myself that the person writing this to me, even though it's coming off as rude, they're writing it with a smile. And I try to do the same when I'm replying back. I was reading your slides. Is it possible Is this possible in outdated versions of those PDF generators? It's just any PDF generator. Those ones that I use were just examples. It doesn't have to be outdated. It comes down to how they have implemented or configured that specific thing. Look out for my next video. I think it would help a little bit. What do you know about privilege escalation? I know a little bit. Do you have a specific question? I'll be more than happy to answer. But a lot of times I look for user roles and post requests and put requests. Can I alter them? That's one of the biggest ones. Seeing if I can alter my cookie or my tokens that I've been given. Those are the things that I usually look for. But if you have a specific question, that would be a little bit better. Can you talk about the incidents response teams, like a bit on what it takes and how to start a career in that? Maybe. I don't know much about IR. I would love to know more. I can't really talk about it, but it seems to be very fun and very stressful. But I don't know a whole lot about it. I'm sorry, unfortunately, I don't. Can it be profitable as a full-time job? Yes, if you actually put in the time to learn the basics and understand how they work, then you can make money, but it's not going to be overnight. How was your life as a triage guy? It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. Most people don't know what my username was, and I don't think I'll ever mention it, but I had a lot of fun doing it. I got to see the inside in bug bounties, and that was really, really helpful to understand how much work goes in the background. Best tool for subdomain enumeration. Search and destroy, not because I wrote it, because I've been doing research within it. It's been very helpful. But on top of that, that's a baseline of getting all these different subdomains. Using stuff like NocPy or AMAS are very, very helpful. But again, depends on what you're trying to do. NahamSec equals still. No, not still. What else? What do you want to become when you were a child? What did I want to do when I was a child? When I was 15, 16, I never thought, I always wanted to make a thing out of the hacking thing, but I never thought it would happen. But before that, I think I wanted to become, so Middle Eastern of me, but a doctor / somewhere in legal work, because, you know, Middle Eastern families, that's what they want you to do. But I did the exact opposite and became a hacker. Do you think trying to become a full stack developer in order to go good with bug bounties would be too much a waste of time? I don't think it would be a waste of time. I think it would definitely give you a better insight on how to do things, and it will make you more efficient to do your automation and all that stuff. But I don't think it's necessary, honestly. But it depends. Are you going to do that just to become a bug bounty hunter, or are you doing that for work and you're going to use that for bug bounties? What's your thought about mobile bug bounty? I saw some videos that say vulnerabilities isn't that great on the wild. That makes me kind of sad to study mobile app security. When it comes to bug bounties, it's different, but it also depends on what you find. I think it's a good way to. I think mobile apps are a very untapped place to find bugs. And I think going after those might be very helpful to find less dupes and better bugs. But always think of how you can increase the impact. It's the biggest thing. Any resources? Yes. Hacker 101, Pentester Lab, Peter Jaworski's Real Bug Hunting. I think those are not outdated at all. I don't know what resources you're looking at. What ebooks do you recommend? The ones that are going to be showing up right here on the chat. No, up here on the chat, sorry. I'm going to paste them really quick. There we go. Is it still a good time to start getting into bug bounties from scratch? Yes, there's going to be more and more programs, more and more people getting involved. It's still a good time, I think. Broad question. Not sure what to answer about this. Tips on finding first bug and getting better at bug hunting. Detach the money from it. That's one thing that helps me the most to get back into hacking, is to remind myself that I did this for fun. It's a hobby, and that I want to do it to be a researcher. So when I first was doing this, I hacked on anything I could get my hands on, not just paid programs, also free programs. Set up goals, big goals, monthly goals, yearly goals, 5-year long goals, and try to really push yourself to get to those. I don't know what else to say. I think we've covered this a lot of times. I think we've talked about this a ton. I'm just gonna ignore most of the recon questions. Sorry if you're in chat and asking this. I think we talked about this a little bit too, about upload vulnerabilities. I don't know resources, but I think both Hacker 101 and Pentester Lab have some CTFs around this. Also, there's a lot of write-ups out there that you could Google for as well. I think I'm losing my voice now. Is XSS going to fade away? Hell no. Do you see how many XSS come out on a daily basis from bug bounties? How can I differentiate me from other bug hunters? We all use the same tools, recon some tools, payloads, blah, blah, blah. How can I show my difference? It's the mentality of, saying I want to accomplish these things. Also finding these really creative bugs, thinking outside the box is the biggest thing. Again, learn from others. Don't do what others are doing. Just learn it and implement it into your own as well. What are the common escalation paths you run into SSRF, excluding AWS metadata? Getting local file read is a really good one. Getting access to internal network is really, really good one. Sometimes you can get RCE, depending on what you have exactly. It doesn't even have to be SSRF. You might think you have an SSRF and then you realize you're just in the curl. You can just escape out of it and run commands. That's happened a couple of times. What else? Port scanning. Depends on the SSRF itself. I like this a lot, so we'll tap it as green and we'll make a video about it later. So thank you for sending this in, whoever that was. What are some good resources on how to write a blog? How to write a report? Look up how to write a report on HackerOne.com. There's a really good article on there, and I'll see if I can actually make that into a video as well. That's a good question. How to find a person to hack with? That's a really hard one. What I would say, go into a forum, a Discord channel, or on Twitter, and see who are people that are genuinely trying. Reach out to them. Hey, I want to collaborate with you. Are you open to this? Collaborate. You don't have to spill out the beans right away, but build the trust before you go too deep. But it's also the leap of faith. I reached out to Brett out of nowhere, and I kept bugging him until we hacked together. And I'm very glad that we did it. But honestly, it's really hard to say that. But also, like, again, you can tell, like, on my Discord, just reading the questions that come in, reading all the chats every day, I can tell who actually is trying and who is not trying. And I think that's an easy way to find someone to hack with, honestly. Clarify the acronyms you've been using. DoD, Department of Defense, GM, General Motors, IBM, the company IBM. It's huge. Have you not heard about them? Ford. But the DoD one is Department of Defense. It's on HackerOne. You should look for it. What to do when you submit 2 bugs a month ago and until now no response? If it's on HackerOne, go ahead and shoot me an email. If you can't find my email support and say, Ben told me to email you guys. Can you please connect me to him? And we'll look into it. Other than that, email the support team on whatever platform you're working on. And if it's not a platform, then yikes, I don't know what to do. Sorry. What do you think about reporting vulnerabilities to companies that don't have a bug bounty program? Don't do it. I don't go and look for bugs, but purposely on programs that don't have a bug bounty. But if I do come across it, I email security out, and if it's really bad, I go on LinkedIn and look for someone who works at the company. Have I had legal ramification from bug bounties? No. The reason why I hesitated was there was a little bit of drama somewhere 5 years ago. I don't want to talk about it. I wasn't getting sued for bug bounties. It's a very long story, but I have never directly from hacking on a company. I've never had a problem with it. Knock on wood. No question, you rock. Right back at you. Thank you for listening. That was it. How long was this? What's my uptime right now, chat? Holy crap. What's uptime like? 2 hours and 6 minutes. Holy crap. That was a very long one, but I appreciate all the questions, and I appreciate all of you guys sticking around and watching this. Outside of that, I am more than likely going to be on Tuesday again. I do have a video coming out next week, so if you want to watch a new video, please do me a favor and go and subscribe on YouTube to NahamSec. There'll be a very cool video coming out very, very soon. And yeah, I appreciate everyone being here. Thanks so much for making all this happen. Happy New Year to all of you guys, and I'll be back on Tuesday, and this video will be up next week, not Monday tomorrow, but a week from tomorrow. I'm gonna post a video with Mark Litchfield tomorrow on YouTube, and my other video is gonna come out midweek, hopefully. Outside of that, again, I'm out. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for all the new subscribers, all the new followers. If you do have a Twitch Prime, put a good use out of it. Hit me up on there. Hook me up. Outside of that, thank you all for watching. I'm out, and I will see you guys on Tuesday. Peace.